She waved the paper in my face and shouted, "You're not allowed to hunt here. I'll make sure you pay." I looked at the so-called HOA notice, stamped with a logo she clearly printed at home, and felt my blood boil. This wasn't some neighborhood street with painted fences. This was the open land my grandfather had taught me to hunt on. Still, she acted like she owned the dirt under my boots. Within an hour, I had a fake fine taped to my truck. A crowd of her little committee members whispering, and one of them saying loud enough for me to hear, "If he doesn't pay, we'll ban him from the trails." I didn't say a word. I just folded the paper, slipped it into my pocket, and smiled. They thought they had power over me, but they had no idea whose name was already written on the deeds just a few miles away. The next morning, I drove past their precious hiking trail, the one they bragged about at every community event. Karen stood at the entrance in her bright vest, clipboard in hand, pretending she was some kind of park ranger. She spotted me and smirked. "Oh, look who's here. The poacher. Don't think we won't take this further. We can have you banned from these woods forever." Her little audience nodded, enjoying the show. I leaned against my truck and stayed calm. "These woods?" I said slowly, letting the silence stretch. "You mean the land you think you control?" Karen laughed, a harsh, sharp laugh. "Think we do control it? Our members hike here every weekend. You'll never step foot here again." She tapped her clipboard like it was a weapon. I pulled a folded set of papers from my jacket, thick, official, stamped with county seals. Their grins slipped. "Funny thing," I continued, "because as of yesterday, this land isn't yours to use. It's mine. Every trail, every tree, every stone your club thinks it owns." Her face drained of color. "You're bluffing." I handed her the copy of the deed. "Read it, Karen. From today, this trail is closed, permanently. And the next time you or your hikers set foot here, it won't be trespassing charges against me." Silence fell. The hikers behind her shifted uncomfortably, some whispering, some backing away. Karen just stood frozen, gripping that useless clipboard like it could save her. Word spread faster than wildfire. By the weekend, cars started showing up, only to find the trail entrance chained shut with a bold red "No Trespassing" private property sign nailed to the post. I sat in my truck across the road, watching as the same smug hikers from last week turned around in confusion. Some cursed under their breath, others argued with each other, but nobody dared cut the chain. Then Karen arrived, storming out of her SUV like she was leading an army. She marched straight to the sign, ripped at the chain, and shouted, "You can't do this. This land belongs to the community." Her voice cracked, but she kept yelling as if volume would rewrite the deed. I stepped out slowly, making sure she saw me. "Careful," I said. "Breaking that chain is a crime. Sheriff's office already has the paperwork." Her eyes widened. "Sheriff?" "Yeah," I nodded. Called him myself. "He confirmed what you already know. You've got no rights here. Your little fines, your fake notices, your power games, all worthless now." The crowd of neighbors that had gathered started murmuring. One man asked, "Wait, Karen, you told us this was protected community land." Another woman looked furious. "We donated money to keep these trails open." Was that a lie? Karen's lips tightened. She looked cornered, but instead of backing down, she snapped, "Don't listen to him. He's making this up. I'll have the HOA bring legal action." I held up my phone, screen glowing with a video recording. "Then maybe they'll enjoy watching this clip. Your fake fine notice, your threats, your lies. I've got every second saved." The whispers turned into outright anger. People who once cheered for her now glared at her like she was poison. And for the first time, Karen didn't have an answer. Karen's mask finally cracked that evening. She called an emergency HOA meeting, dragging chairs into the cul-de-sac like she was hosting a trial. Her voice shook as she tried to rally the crowd. "He's stealing from us." "This land has always been ours. We can't let him close it." But the neighbors weren't buying it anymore. A veteran in the group, a man with folded arms and a calm stare, spoke up. "Karen, I checked the county records myself. His name is on the deed. Not yours. Not the HOA's. You lied." Karen's face flushed red. "No, those records must be wrong. You don't understand how this works." That's when headlights cut through the street. A sheriff's cruiser rolled up, slow and deliberate. Karen's fake confidence faltered. The deputy stepped out, tipping his hat, and held up a folder. "We've had complaints of forged documents and impersonation of authority. Miss Karen, I'm here because of you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. she stammered, pointing at me. No, it's him. He hunts illegally. He threatened me. The deputy cut her off. Ma'am, we've reviewed his permits. Everything's legal. What's not legal is you handing out fake citations and pretending to act as law enforcement. That's a crime. Karen's jaw dropped. She spun around looking for support, but the neighbors she once controlled avoided her eyes. Some even shook their heads in disgust. I stepped forward, calm but firm. You tried to fine me for hunting on land you didn't own. So I bought the land you do use. Actions have consequences, Karen. Maybe now you'll finally learn. The deputy snapped open the cuffs. Ma'am, you're coming with me. The sound of metal closing around her wrists was the sweetest silence I'd ever heard. They hauled Karen off that night, but her downfall didn't end with the flashing lights. The next morning I woke to the sound of shouting outside. Neighbors were clustered in groups, holding papers in their hands, HOA fee slips, special assessments, and ridiculous fines that Karen had pushed on them for years. Now, with her mask ripped off, they were finally comparing notes. This is fraud, one man said, waving a letter. She fined me $500 because my grass was too green, too green. Another neighbor added, she made me repaint my door twice in 1 year. Claimed the color didn't match the community code, but she pocketed the money. It was like a dam breaking. Years of anger poured out, and I didn't even have to say a word. Karen had built her little empire on lies and fake authority, and now everyone saw it for what it was. By noon, I got a call from the sheriff's office. We'll need your video footage for evidence, the deputy said. County prosecutors looking at charges of fraud, impersonation, and misuse of HOA funds. I smiled. You'll have everything by tonight. That evening, I stood on my porch watching as the so-called hiking club tried to gather again, only this time without their queen bee. They lingered at the locked trail, staring at the private property signs, whispering nervously. None of them dared cross. And then, the sweetest part, one of the older neighbors, a quiet man who'd lived there longer than anyone, raised his voice. Maybe it's time we dissolve the HOA altogether. We don't need tyrants running our lives, the crowd cheered. For the first time in years, the neighborhood wasn't afraid. And somewhere in a holding cell, Karen was realizing she had lost everything. Her fake power, her reputation, even her freedom to hike the very trails she used to lord over. A week later, the neighborhood felt different, lighter, freer, like someone had opened a window and let the stale air out. The HOA office that Karen once treated like her throne room was stripped bare. Files, receipts, and even her official stamps had been hauled away by investigators. People gathered outside watching as county officials locked the doors. That's when the local news van pulled up. A reporter jumped out, camera rolling, and began interviewing the neighbors. One after another, they told their stories. Phony fines, harassment, even threats of eviction. Karen's name was everywhere, plastered across every accusation. I stayed back at first, leaning on my truck, but the reporter spotted me. You're the hunter she fined, right? The one who bought the land? I nodded. The mic came closer. What made you fight back instead of just paying her? I looked straight into the camera. Because freedom doesn't come with fake permission slips. I won't be told I can't hunt on my own land, and I sure won't let someone steal from my neighbors with lies. The line hit harder than I expected. A few people clapped. Someone shouted, "That's right." The reporter smiled like she knew she'd just caught the soundbite that would air across every living room that night. And it did. By the evening broadcast, the whole county had seen Karen's face as she was led away in cuffs. They saw her neighbors rising up. They saw the truth. The next day, people from towns over came to see the closed trail, shaking my hand, thanking me for standing up. You didn't just stop her, one man said. You showed all of us we don't have to live under people like that. And somewhere in the county jail, Karen was glued to a small TV, forced to watch herself become the villain in front of thousands. A month passed and Karen's trial began. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors filled the benches, reporters lined the back wall, and the air buzzed with the weight of years of resentment finally being spoken aloud. One by one, victims stood and told their stories. An elderly couple who had nearly lost their home to one of her fake liens. A young mother she threatened with eviction over a swing set in her yard. Each testimony hit harder than the last. Karen sat at the defense table, pale and shaking. Gone was the iron-voiced dictator with the clipboard. She looked small, cornered, and desperate. When her turn came, she stammered excuses. I thought I was helping. I was keeping order. It was for the good of the community. But nobody believed her anymore. Then it was my turn. I rose slowly, the deed papers in my hand, and faced the judge. "Your Honor," I said, "this all started with one fake fine. But it was never about money. It was about power. She thought she could control land she didn't own, control lives she had no right to touch. And when I fought back, she tried to crush me with lies. That's not community. That's tyranny." The judge leaned forward, his gavel tapping once against the desk. "Well said. This court agrees." When the sentence came down, fraud, impersonation, restitution, the room erupted in cheers. Some neighbors cried, some hugged, and for the first time in years, everyone felt safe. As Karen was escorted out, she turned her head, eyes locked on me, full of hatred and disbelief. But I didn't flinch. I just whispered the line that had carried me through it all. "You picked the wrong man to fine." And in that moment, justice didn't just feel like law, it felt like freedom. When the dust finally settled, the neighborhood was unrecognizable, but in the best way. Without Karen's iron grip, the HOA dissolved, and the people who once feared her suddenly discovered their freedom. Kids played basketball in driveways without violation notices. Families painted their homes the colors they loved. The constant tension in the air was gone, replaced by laughter and peace. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the hills, I stood by the locked gate of the trail, the land that was now mine and mine alone. My son came up beside me, carrying the same old hunting rifle my grandfather once placed in my hands. "Dad," he asked, "why did you fight so hard instead of just walking away?" I looked out at the woods, the land that had carried my family's footsteps for generations, and I answered slowly, "Because if you give away your rights once, you'll never get them back. Land, freedom, family, those are things worth protecting. Always." He nodded, his young eyes wide with understanding. Behind us, the sound of neighbors celebrating carried through the air. For them, it was the end of tyranny. For me, it was something deeper, a reminder that no one, no matter how loud or entitled, could strip me of what I'd fought for. I took a deep breath of the cool evening air and whispered to myself, "This is what freedom feels like." And in that moment, it wasn't just about land or fines or revenge. It was about honor, about family, about standing tall in a country where rights mean everything. The trail stayed closed, permanently, but my heart had never felt more open.